Welcome to the Ask Ezra Podcast. Real people with intimacy challenges and real intimacy coaching. I'm Sir Ezra Algos, intimacy coach at askezra.info. If this is your first episode, you might be asking yourself, what is intimacy coaching? One definition is that an intimacy coach helps people feel safer, closer, and more connected to their lovers, friends, and even themselves. It is my goal to help people become closer to the people that they care about. So join me for this session already in progress. You've made some significant progress on your ability to hit on people, because I've heard tell of your polycule expanding.
Yeah, I kind of hit out of nowhere. I have 2 partners now, and I've got 2 people that I'm seeing, which is really wonderful. One of the people that I'm seeing was previously said on here that's still going consistent, it's going really well actually. Mm-hmm. And then the other person kind of that was a surprise. I didn't go out looking, but it was really wonderful. Yeah, it's been really good.
And would you say that you used some of those things that we talked about in the last session about being vulnerable and making those propositions?
Yeah, so there was one day I went on and we had such an incredible day. We have such a dynamic energy between us. It's very intoxicating for me. And I was just sat there and we were talking. We had a casual lull. And at this point, I was thinking, God, you're so fucking pretty. When you just have that moment where you look at someone, you're like, you are just everything. So I voiced it, and I typically wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't typically tell people, hey, I find you really pretty. And the reaction I got was really wonderful. And we continued to have a fantastic date. And I was very much more forward with how I want our relationship to go into the direction and mm-hmm. And which way it could go, and being very vocal with, hey, I'm interested in this and that, and I think you're an incredible person, and these kind of small things, giving that appreciation towards them was, I think, very well enjoyed on their behalf.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Glad to hear it.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah, and I know we touched on some, were they self-worth issues before? We're touching on some significant issues. Are those persistent for you? Or those sort of background?
So it's been really interesting. I sat down after a talk with my partner about my insecurities, and she suggested that I did, I wrote them down, at least, wrote mm-hmm. them down and what I could do about them. And I did a step further, because why not? I wrote down a mind map about my insecurities. I have 3 main ones: abandonment fears, feeling not good enough, and feeling unattractive. So I wrote down how they came about, what causes them, where are they rooted, how they impact my life, what do they stop me doing, mm-hmm. how do I manifest them, what behaviors do I display, and then what can I do to change them. And not only that, I then sat down and went, a lot of this stuff could be fixed by things I can do and things I can do within a routine. So I now have my mind map on the wall, so I can reflect on it quite often. And then underneath, I have a daily, a twice weekly, a weekly, every 2 weeks, and every month, things that I can do. And it's color coordinated, so every single row has tasks that can help each insecurity. At least one of them does. And I found that really quite cathartic, and really quite nice to have it all out and out of my head, because mm-hmm. I spiral. My brain just likes to mull things over and consistently spiral with it. So I thought this might make a good way of helping that ease, but also feeling more in control of everything. Mm-hmm. And I also have a negative thoughts wall. So a thought pops into my head and it's quite counterproductive to everything. So I write it down, stick it on the wall, leave it. And then when I'm mentally in a better headspace, I can analyze it and come back to that thought and go through the thought process and see where it's coming from and what I can do to fix it. And I found that to be really, really useful for a lot of my insecurities at the moment.
That's wonderful. I love how organized your strategy is.
It needs to be, because I'm an unorganized mess most of the time.
Uh-huh. Well, apparently not.
It's a change I'm actively making, is to get
Yeah,
more organized, and being poly as well. Like you have to be
that's
on
right.
top of not just your insecurities, but your time, your management, routine. So it's been a really good boost to have that.
Thank goodness for Google Calendar, right?
Yes. And also, like for me personally, I have a fridge magnet. I have three, and it's a week-long one, a daily to-do list, and then a month-long calendar. And oh my God, like without that, I'd be lost.
I get a lot of use out of whiteboards. I have like a
Mm.
giant whiteboard calendar that I fill in every month. Hey everybody, it's Ezra. And wow, isn't that exciting? Wouldn't you like to be the next guest on our show? Well, you can. Just email askezra8@gmail.com. And hey, if being on the show is too much and you'd just like to get some private intimacy coaching, that's available too. Now back to our show. And so, a strategy that I found really productive and some of my clients have found really helpful is when we get those negative self-talk experiences to actually find a counterpoint, right? So like I might say to myself, I'm spinning my wheels. I'm not getting anything done. I can't get anything done, right?
Yeah.
Sort of a talk that I get. And so I find a counterpoint and then I'll say that counterpoint and it really takes the wind out of that negative self-talk.
I like that.
And so like for that particular insecurity of like my ability to be effectual, I'm like, I'm a fucking laser beam. I affect change all over the world.
You do.
Real change. Yeah. Like, and it makes a difference. And that's like a really powerful assertive statement that counteracts that negative self-talk.
Oh, that's really wonderful. I might keep that in mind.
Yeah.
For like my insecurity self, like thought wall.
Sure. And I share that experience that you've had about like, insecurity about being attractive. And so I have this like really aggressive assertion that is a counterpoint to that. So I might be like, oh, I'm ugly, or I'm not attractive, or I wish I was this, or I wish I was that, right? And then if I hear myself saying that, I say, I'm hot shit and people want me.
Damn straight.
Damn straight. I'm hot shit.
Fuck yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. It's a podcast. We get to fucking swear. I love what you're doing about sort of like searching for the root cause, because usually these challenges that we face are a result of some beliefs, right? Some beliefs, like, a belief could be that, I'm not attractive enough, right? And there's a motivation there. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what's really challenging is to hunt down and not just say like, why are they here, but why are they still here? Right.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to say I'm disorganized, right, I'm going to paint myself as someone who is disorganized. Maybe a more accurate thing to say is sometimes I struggle with organization. Right. Yeah. That's a much more generous way of describing it. But if I say to myself, I am disorganized, then I'm off the hook for putting in the work to stay organized.
Oh, yeah. Right? Okay.
So the belief serves me, right? The belief serves me. If I say, oh, I'm not attractive, then now all of a sudden I don't have to talk to that attractive person that I wanted to talk to, because, oh, well, I'm not attractive, so it doesn't matter, right? But what do you gain from those negative beliefs? And that's really helpful, because you can look at that and say, like, do I really gain it, or is it worth it? And, and that can really uproot some of those negative beliefs.
It's almost like the self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing. Like you think you're unattractive, or you're unable to do something, you can't do something. So therefore you don't really try because it's dead set. But if you give yourself that, I'm not good at it yet kind of thing, it feels like it's kind of like that. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, absolutely. Or like sometimes people identify with their struggles. Like, someone might say, instead of like, I am having a depressive episode, someone might say, I am depressed. Like, you're not depression manifested. Yeah. Right. But that can be a belief that serves us. And language is super important. right? Language is like
That's
how we
really
frame our
interesting.
experiences. And the most important language is the language we use with ourselves,
Yes.
right? And sometimes, like, I'm really lucky that my negative self-talk sounds like my father, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get to have that shitty internal voice kind of sound like somebody else. And it's useful to like push it to sound other, push
Mm-hmm.
it to be like, meh, 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 right? Like, because it's not me. It's not, I don't
Yeah.
identify with that negative self-talk. And so here's one that I managed to eliminate completely from my own mind. I would say, yeah, there's no such thing as a healthy DS,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like in my mind, there was this excuse of these relationships that are consensually power exchange relationships. They can't be healthy. It's too weird. It's too
Mm-hmm.
different. Why doesn't everybody do it? Right. Um, and that's just bullshit. That's an excuse
Yeah.
to have a relationship that's not working and not be responsible for that. Right. That's my benefit, is that I don't have to be responsible for the relationship. And as the dominant, I am. And so I would out loud say, you don't know that.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, contradict it. You don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't going to work. You don't know that it's not going to work.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Right.
That's
And
really
and
nice.
saying this isn't going to work is going to make it less likely to work. Hey, everybody, it's Ezra. Do some of these challenges sound like some of the things you've been dealing with? Maybe your challenges are very different, but you just love to have somebody to work on them with. Well, you're not alone on your journey. I'm here to help. So email askezra8@gmail.com or visit us at askezra.info, and maybe we can set up a session where we just focus on you. All right, back to the last component of our show. So you've got new relationships
Mm-hmm.
and more love in your life. Is that presenting any new challenges?
Um, so for a while there was a little bit of distance, but I U-hauled my other partner 5 hours away. So now they're 10 minutes down the road, which is actually really wonderful. It's nice because it's been really interesting. One of my partners has been really successful with their dating and like finding people, and they have 5 partners. And now 4 of them, including myself, are within a half-hour drive away maximum. So naturally, like they're away quite often. They see them quite regularly, which I'm very happy for. But oh my God, the poly loneliness hit me hard.
Mm.
Like it was a little bit painful that um, seeing them being with their other partners so consistently and enjoying their time. And that can cause a little bit of resentment and a little bit of envy because, well, not so much envy, more so I can see what I could potentially have, and I can't have that right now. And that yearning and that lamenting for something that seems so wonderful and not being able to have that just yet.
I like to think about challenging feelings as messages from the universe.
Okay.
Right. And so we can reframe these feelings that we might categorize as negative and say, really, this is a learning opportunity. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you mentioned jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
And what can that teach us? Like, that is a great opportunity to learn.
Oh,
right?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And they say jealousy is a secondary emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd encourage you to really dig into it and say, okay, well, what's really happening? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Like, what is really fueling that jealousy? Because jealousy isn't a primary emotion, right?
Yeah, I found for me feeling a little bit like it's not full on jealousy. It's a really difficult like emotion for me to describe. It's almost like jealousy, but it's kind of like I don't know what it is, but I've found that a lot of the time it is deep rooted within insecurities and feeling insecure and feeling that kind of like all 3 of them, because all my insecurities interact very heavily with each other.
Yeah.
If I feel not good enough, it's typically because I feel like I'm going to get abandoned or I'm unattractive or both at the same time, right? So I feel like all of them at the same time. And I feel like the almost jealous like emotion is kind of highlighting either an area where I'm feeling either left out slightly or feeling a little bit under, like my needs are undermet. And it's taking that time to self-reflect on them. I've been doing that a lot lately as well. Days where I'm having either really good high emotions or really low emotions, I've been sitting down and self-reflecting on like the day, what's happened, what emotions are happening, what's triggered what can I do to fix it? How could I react better in the future? I'm doing a lot of self-reflection right now. And I think that personally, that's challenging and it's very anxiety inducing. It's very difficult, but it's something that I know now that I really need for my relationships and for myself. My relationship with myself is near non-existent. So how can I have really flourishing and the best relationships that I can with other people if I can't have that relationship with myself?
Yeah, because a lot of times we hide from emotions or like minimize emotions. There's a lot in our culture about, it's not okay to cry. It's not okay to, hide those feelings, right? Is the message that we often get. And what we end up with is a relative immaturity because because if I hide every time that I'm sad, then when I finally give up hiding it and I start feeling that sadness, I'm like a 12-year-old finally dealing with sadness, because I've missed out on years of dealing with those immature ways. Right. But I think
that's
naming
exactly
it,
how I feel.
yeah, and naming it is really valuable. I think it can be challenging because it can be like, how can I make this better? Right. But to understand ways that we can make it better can sort of make us feel like we have a foothold, right? We're not without any resources. So so there's a lot of things we can do. So number one, we can name it. And I like to imagine being almost like approaching a wild animal, right? Like, what am I going to do if I see a fox in my backyard? For me, it would be a coyote because I'm in Southern California, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to say like, hey, coyote, I see you, right? I'm going to be kind and I'm going to be, especially if I'm in a safe space, right? I'm going to be kind and I'm going to be vocal, right? Like, how do you approach the sadness that comes into your life? How do you approach the fear that comes into your life? And to just name it and to say hello and to be kind like you would to a wild bird, perching on your windowsill, right? Don't scare it away. Don't try to grab it. Don't stuff it in a sack, right? You just kind of go like, oh, hello, there you are, right? And it's a sort of a loving kindness that we can foster for our own selves.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because usually my emotions are very hard hitting very quickly. So taking that time to like even just acknowledge them and name them might help me first taking a little bit of a back seat and acknowledging it and start that process before catastrophization hits in and it accelerates.
Yeah. And you can sip on tough feelings. I know it can feel like drowning in them sometimes, but we can also invoke them, right? In the same way that you can like, you're like, okay, I'm going to masturbate. Like, let me think of something sexy. You can also do like sad masturbation. You can also be like, you know what? Like, I'm going to think of something sad. I'm going to feel it. And then I'm going to come through it and know that I'm okay. Right. I think we do that. Yeah. We do that with music sometimes where we're like, I want to feel sad. And then we put on a sad song and then now we feel sad. But then the song is over and then there we are, we're done and we're okay.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, we can do that right now if you're open to it. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to invoke some sadness. Or what if you had to sort of name it as like the most significant challenge? Would it be sadness or anger or fear?
Typically it's fear. My fear of rejection and abandonment is the highest it's been in a long time. I've been having dreams about it a lot lately, and it kept me up for quite a few nights. So I think fear is my biggest drive at the moment, which is not a pleasant place to be in.
Sure. So, I want to have like a safe container here, right? There's no real danger. There's nothing to be afraid of. And I also then I want to invoke that feeling, and I want to take the time to really feel, where does it show up in our body, right? So that when that sadness or when that fear comes again, we can really feel it coming. It's not going to sneak up on us because we're going to, oh, there's our butterflies, or, oh, there's my neck tension, right? And then the last step is going to be coming back to center, right? So what do we do to self-soothe? And that's a question I'm actually asking you. It's not a rhetorical question. So what do we do to self-soothe, Ken?
I'm typically quite a big one for stimming. Stimming on myself. I've caught myself if I'm in really severe like anxiety driven moments, that the arms come over like your body, and like you have a hand on your shoulder and you do that rubbing motion. It's generally like, what you would have had as a child in some circumstances, of that calming and that hugging, that comfort through stuff like that. That seems to be something when I'm feeling most vulnerable, like my body will physically go very small. I'll curl up, I'll get quite small and almost protect myself that way.
Sure. That makes sense. And I want to make sure that like we accept that it's okay to soothe with others too. Like self-soothing is super important, and it's going to be our primary toolbox, but it is totally okay to go, hey, honey, or whatever, I'm gonna be sad later. If we can cuddle, I'll really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's like aftercare. We talk about what we need for aftercare, but life fucks us hard sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And we need a little aftercare, I would have a partner that would like go and spend the night with somebody else. And then I would say, hey, look, like, do that. I might have tough feelings, but when when you come home, like, this is what I need. I need to know when you're coming home, and I need to know, I need to know you still love me. I need to know you're not, leave me for them or something, right? And I need cuddles, lots of cuddles, right? And so you can schedule that care. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's first take a moment to sort of just observe neutral, like where we're at right now. Maybe a little bit of heightened awareness, but just kind of take a few breaths, close your eyes if it's helpful, and just kind of feel, where is your body right now? Okay, so there's our neutral. So let's imagine, you can share it or you can just imagine it, of some moment that really kind of triggered your fear of abandonment, perhaps.
Let's pick the dreams that I'd been having, because usually I'd wake up with that and that would trigger the fear for the rest of the day. So I think it's a really good time to pick up on it.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So typically, and it didn't have to be with partners, it would be, I'd have a connection, in dreams when you've got an emotional connection with someone, you don't have to recognize them, but you can feel it. And I had multiple people that I had those connections with. And the entire time I was crying out for attention and trying to get that affection and love and care and that affirmation that they still want to be with me and still like care for me. And I was constantly getting ignored and pushed away. And that was awful to have dreamed, because my dreams are so vivid when I'm stressed and colorful. So it was very real to me. And that was an awful one to wake up to, because even though I didn't recognize anyone in that dream specifically, it was heartbreaking. It was really hurtful.
Okay, so now let's take a look inward again and sort of feel, where is that in your body? Do you feel butterflies? Do you feel tension in your neck, in your shoulders? What's going on in your body, Kat?
So I can feel it in my chest. That kind of like, when it starts like getting tense and getting tight, when you're about to cry or something like that. It's up my shoulders and up my neck. I carry a lot of stress and anxiety up there anyway, usually. And it's in my stomach. I feel physically sick. It's a full body manifestation.
Yeah. Okay, so there it is. So you're feeling the trigger, right? And it sounds like you're really clear on how that manifests in your body, so you can be aware of that when that happens. And so now let's just take a moment to self-soothe, right? Self-stim, whatever works. A lot of people like tap on their body to sort of like come back here, right? But let's just come right into our bodies. Do that do that hugging, do that self-touching that you need to sort of just come back to it. For me, it's like, what does the room smell like? What does the air feel like? What does my butt feel like in the chair?
Yeah, I get very, very physically movementy. But I think that's also the potential ADHD kicking in as well. But yeah, that kind of like close comfort is really quite soothing and comforting. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to just feel like that little bit of thing. I really want to cuddle now, actually.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm so far away. The just modality would allow it. We could hug for therapeutic reasons. So, but alas, we are an ocean apart.
Very sad about that.
Yeah. So, here you are, you're safe, right? Mm-hmm. So that's just another piece of evidence that these feelings are strong and they can be unnerving, but they're not going to give you physical harm.
Yeah.
Right. And they're going to pass. And I think that's what's really challenging, is that we can feel like these really challenging emotions are permanent now. Like, this is now I live here. Like, no, that's not how it works. They pass. And so we just want to make sure we don't, make decisions while we're really upset, or lash out at people while we're really upset, right? Because those feelings are going to pass. Thanks for watching the Ask Ezra podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends on social media. If you would like to review this episode, please do so at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support the episode, go to patreon.com/AskEzra. And you can sign up for our mailing list at askezra8@gmail.com. Lastly, if you'd like to find out if intimacy coaching is right for you, visit askezra.info. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to tune in next time.